Greetings and salutations, friend. I am Jeremy Tank, and if you are watching this, I am your brand guy. What does that mean to you? Well, it means you've got someone on your side and in your corner to talk about your branding, places that you put your name and your logo and all that kind of fancy stuff. But there's more to it than that, because it's really about what you're building. What you're building for yourself, for your life, for your friends, for your family, for the world in general. It's about what you are bringing into this existence, this reality. Because when we're talking about brand, we're talking about something a little bit more than just the type of soap that you buy at the store. And of course, I'm a brand guy, so I think it's a really high-level ideal to be a brand. You are upheld to values. You're supposed to believe in something and then hold to that. And that's tricky these days because it's so easy to kind of flip-flop. I myself keep getting caught in these sorts of things online where I believe it's one type of company and it swaps out into another. And it's really difficult when so many more businesses are moving into the online business, mostly because of the pandemic over the last year, right? So it's important that you really find the right words and pictures to share who you are and what you're trying to accomplish with your audience. After all, those are the ones who are going to buy things from you, right? And for me, I really deeply believe in the ideas of quantum energy, neuroscience, neuroplasticity, the law of attraction, the power of hypnosis, the power of the subconscious mind, the power of knowing you can do and be pretty much anything that you choose to. So why don't you? It has a lot to do with the flow of energy, according to the quantum universe, according to quantum theory, according to the quantum field. Energy is everywhere all at once. Every time, everything, every manifestation of everything is out there. And you are actually a super integral part bringing all of this stuff together. I know you can think, that's weird, why me? Or you can think, hooray, me! Doesn't matter how you see it. You are super important to the universe because according to quantum science, you are the one defining your experience. The things that go into your head, the things that you believe about yourself, about the world around you, the energy that you put into the flow of life, or the energy that you hold up as resistance, that all creates the experience of your life. You could think of yourself essentially as a radio frequency out there in the universe. You're this, broadband, awesome, kick-ass, everything energy being, right? Out in the quantum universe. You exist in all time, in all places, all at once. And that's pretty kicking. Right on. You get to see everything, be everything, do everything. But the problem with seeing everything, being everything, doing everything is that you don't have the experience to contrast that against. You see, in the quantum world, everything's connected. In the movie I Heart Huckabees, they call it the blanket. Everything is the blanket. Everything is covered in the blanket, part of the blanket, folds onto itself. It's all the blanket. It's all connected. And when we look at the world like this, it's actually kind of funny that quantum science, physics, math, philosophy, all these areas of conscious understanding, logical understanding, mathematical understanding, they're all kind of converging right now in time and place. And out of that kind of left field is this metaphysics science that is saying we're actually part of the universe, not distinguishable just because we get to stand here and talk to one another. And when we take ourselves as part of the universe, part of this thing that's undergoing, then our experience becomes super important. Why do we have this experience? Well, one reason, and that's all you need. That's all you need to believe in anything is one reason, right? One reason why you would want this experience is because it's not the other experience. When you experience everything, all energy, all knowledge, all blah, 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 all at once, you crave, your understanding, your conscious craves the opposite. It's a little limited experience, take all this powerful cosmic power, shove it down into any little human body. Great opportunity for contrast, right? Great opportunity for experience. And it's that experience that we take for granted most of the time. Because so much of our history is based in gosh, I refer to it as the particle. It's the body. It's the subconscious. It's the energy of the limbic brain and the midbrain, the spinal cord. It's the energy of anger, fear, survival, caveman, Neanderthal. We spent thousands of years rehashing the same cycles over and over and over again, where we get a little bit ahead of ourselves and then we bring ourselves back down with this collective cacophony of noise, anger, fear. But it's a hell of an experience. It's a hell of a chance for some part of you that decides to experience here and now to be here and now. And the funny thing is that quantum science says, yes, all of those histories, all of everything can, and by all of observation, is happening right this minute, right this second, in every second. And the only reason that you are not living in the past, living in the future, living in Cincinnati, maybe you're in Cincinnati and you want to be in Honolulu. The only reason you are not there is because through your observation and through the physical training of your cells and the mechanisms in the brain that process the consciousness, that filter the consciousness and display it, essentially this film, this movie that is life, because that's what it is. It's our cognition of our brain recognizing moment to moment the differences, the changes in the signals coming in through our sensories. When we're seeing light, it's the change in our seeing, our perceptions moment to moment. I can't say second to second because that's just too slow. It is moment to moment. And when we're in peril, when fight or flight kicks off, it's even faster moments to moment. The brain can process a whole lot super fast when it's scared. And all of this is the flow of energy from the universe of everything down through you, through your experience. You are here because at some point in the experience of everythingness, you were perceived to be here. I see you. Hi. You see me. Hi. And the funny thing is that Big Bang, past, future, all that stuff sort of finds its way around to, of course, that's the way it is when we consider observation as part of the experience. Because of course it was that way. That's what it needed to be to get to you to here. That's where we start to have those philosophical debates of dualism, yin and yang, versus unity, right? If everything is all together, then of course things are the way they are now because that's how they would need to be for you to experience this now. What I love about that is that means that you are in precisely the right moment, the right time to do exactly what it is you are doing. I find that liberating because no matter what we do, we're on the right path. The universe has said you are co-creating your existence, which means you are co-creating everything that is happening right now for yourself through your observation, through the feedback mechanisms of the reticular activating system, triggering certain beliefs, certain feelings, certain thoughts going on in your brain and body, taking into account all of the foreign bodies within you, all the bacteria, all the mold, fungi, viruses that are in you that are also affecting you. because those certainly determine behavior, guidance, drive. And you're sort of this amalgam of this energy channeled into all of this craziness to experience whatever's going on here and now. So that means what you want to be in the future really is up to you. I love the idea of co-creating because it definitely takes into account that you, as the observer in the universe, are a participant in this. And if we start thinking about energy as if it were a river and lakes with eddies and all these different flows and currents in it, sort of like an ocean, because this is an ocean of energy. The quantum field is the ocean of energy, everything at all times. This is Esther Hicks' vortex, just waiting for you to open up enough to allow things to enter into your life. And since it's all out there, and we can kind of look at these different ways of flow and resistance, it's just energy, then we can see how we bring ourselves into this body and how we, through the choices of observation, because we perceive about, on order, any given moment, between 5 and 10,000 signals hitting us, internal and external. So that's pressure on the skin, light coming in, taste buds, hearing, all of the senses, as well as, digestion, proprioception, areas that show you, how you are, what you are, just a hint of where and what you are in this world. Because you can't really see for yourself. You can't experience your own identity. Your identity is something that people give to you or put on top of you or you give to yourself to limit how high you can go. Are you a man or are you a woman? Are you straight, gay, white? Are you a cat? Do you like to wear a hat? When you identify with any of these things, you become part of those things. And you, as an experience, as a person, aren't so two-dimensional. You can't just stack up a whole bunch of identities and call it yourself. You are so much more than that. You're the accumulation of all the energies within you and all of the thoughts and consciousness in your active experience given moment to moment, meaning that shifts like the tides. In your active experience, the things that you know consciously and the things that you happen to think, feel, experience unconsciously hitting you in any given moment based on what pops up, what your body feels like can help you survive, help you move forward. And it's just the barely split second between when you experience and when the brain throws in all of those thoughts to try and guide you in a way that is safe, familiar, narrow. And that's where we start to get the choice in our life, right? It's when we start to notice the things that make us angry, the things that make us afraid, the things that make us shameful, guilty, you name it. How many different emotions are blocks for us actually moving forward in a choice that we truly want to make on some level? We know we want to make it because we feel a buzz here or a buzz down here, right? The stomach and the heart. These are feedback mechanisms for us. They actually resonate with some of our ideas, but we've learned to ignore them. Starting from a young age, you pretty much told, get on with life, do your thing, do your chores, do your homework, eat your peas. We've been trained into being and ignoring sort of what our bodies tell us. And the brain gets confused between the unconscious and the conscious aspects of the active experience. It is so much about this pendulum of energy back and forth. What do I need to knock around? The brain part of the mind really understands contrast, really understands having polarity, this duality of life. And to keep us safe, the brain, limbic brain, spinal cord, all these things, essentially trigger 5 times the emotional response for a negative thing than for a positive thing. 5 times. Which means we're much more likely to think of the negative to keep us safe than to the positive. We are programmed to survive. super, right? If you're happy with surviving. There's the idea of thriving. And if you're programmed to survive, how are you going to thrive in life? And last week I talked about moving through the resistance in the active experience. It's noticing when you hit the walls of resistance, noticing when you feel nervous in your stomach, or when you feel down in your heart, when it feels like there's a cloud over your shoulders. These physical manifestations tie in with a thought somewhere in your head that is either holding you back or afraid of you moving forward. And to move forward isn't always a bad thing. It's an unfamiliar thing because the brain loves familiarity. Familiarity means that you are going down a path that is safe, essentially, to your brain. And so we move through a lot of safe environments, mostly because we feel familiar with them from the way we were raised, the way our parents treated each other, the way our parents treated strangers, the way our friends treated us growing up. And sometimes it's hard to come back and place new barriers in front of people who've known you forever because they don't understand. They don't experience what you're experiencing. They have all the glory of going through their own experience, whatever that means. It's like there's a tiny universe inside each one of us. We've got to figure out how to pull all the different pieces together to relate to one another. It's a great Qigong move called Tiny Universe that is you and all of the pieces and moving you around. So when we find these points of resistance, imagine that flowing river of energy. And you, as you're going through life, are just riding that river because you don't have a choice. The way that the brain perceives time, moment after moment, changes and everything. You're just riding through that river. In my head, it almost looks like a map, like a top-down map, and you just keep traveling along that river, going along. And when you see potential ahead that can scare you, the body triggers a reaction of some kind. And not sometimes, we never know if it's actually going to be good for us, do we? We never do. And it depends on how much bad crap has happened to you in the past, is if you make that leap. If you push past the fear, if you push past whatever emotions are popping up, it really depends on what you've done in the past or what work you've done on yourself, whether you take that chance, whether you take that risk. And sometimes you take it and you're like, oh, well, that sucked. Great. What can you take from it and move forward? Because you're going to keep moving forward either way, right? You don't really have a choice. I mean, this is the experience. And as you move through that energy, all the points of fear, anger, all that tension, all the tension that ends up in stagnancy or the tension that pulls back towards the pendulum, pushing you in the other direction, that to the universe looks like a block. I think of air hockey paddles, the things you sit on top and you hit them back and forth. Because when you release those sorts of proteins, those sorts of elements that go into the body and tell your cells, okay, this is how we're going to feel, then they react a certain way. And the way that they react could be slowing down metabolism. It could be slowing down the way that you react. It could be slowing down DNA duplication. It could be changing the DNA in a really important way. Epigenetics, right? Actively changing your DNA through the way that you focus, the way that you think, the way that you emote, feel, energize yourself, the way you feed yourself, the way you take care of yourself. You are literally changing your genetic code moment to moment. And when you give into like fear and anger and those kind of darker, troublesome emotions, stress, depression, anxiety, all of these things put chemicals into our system that change. Remember I said that, in the quantum universe, you're that big wave, you're just like a radio broadcast, and you're just that energy of that, and that body pulls that energy right into it. Well, when you get to the point that you are finding those points of resistance, it literally is resistance to bringing down more of that energy, more of that consciousness, more of the true you. That would be the Hindu culture, that the Atman, right? The Brahman, the essence, the being that is pure you, that is behind you, above you, seeing through your eyes, just enjoying everything about life, everything that you're doing, and laughing along because it is what it is. So every time you throw these kind of energy barriers up, these kind of thoughts up, and say, oh, I don't know if I want to do that. Well, I want to do that, but I'm afraid of what's going to happen. Then you end up focusing on negative things. You end up focusing on the barriers. You end up focusing on the fear and the anger and that feeling in the body. And what happens is it changes the frequency of your body on a very literal level, because when these proteins, these molecules, these atoms, sometimes individual ions going through your body, the cumulative effect is that on a subatomic level, they're vibrating with some frequency and they are tuning in or tuning out your core consciousness. And your core consciousness doesn't need to be tuned out. It brings you where you want to go. It brings you the truth of what you want. And that is a challenge today, because so many of us, we're searching for our truths. We're searching for our vision. We're searching for all of these things. And we don't really understand that because of our past, because of the way that our brains were trained, because of the way our minds were trained, because of the way our bodies were trained, because of the way the experiences that we've had in this crazy world of ours, it's difficult to tune into who we are. And I actually like that part of my brand work, because one of the first things we talk about in my process is vision. And so many people have these false visions. They're just not big enough. They're not grand enough. They're not actually looking at the goal. They're looking at building the process. They haven't gotten past the process part of it. And part of that is finding out, well, what are you actually going for? Do you want to do these little pieces here, or is there a goal? And, inevitably someone's going to say, well, yeah, I want to change the world. I want to build a community. I want to, start a movement. Great. So why focus on a business part of it? That's the way it gets there. Awesome. But let's focus on the vision, because that vision needs to inspire you enough. It needs to be powerful enough, driving enough, that when times are hard and people don't get you or they don't follow and you need to keep communicating who you are, you can step up and say, look, here's my vision. I know that this is worthwhile, and that's what keeps me going. And then you actually push through that fear, right? Because you have something worthwhile. And we know purpose, meaning, motivation. These are concepts that modern society, I picture little magic in my fingers. Modern society has told us, well, you should have these things and then start moving forward. Confidence, another one. You don't have motivation until you start. And then, when you see how far you've gone in a short amount of time, then you have motivation to continue. You don't have confidence until you step up and start sharing who you are, what you believe, start doing the thing, living the life. Then you gain the confidence to keep being you. You don't have purpose just because you stand up and declare something is your purpose. You might not even believe in that purpose. You have purpose when you start living it, having to adapt it, realize how hard it is to have ideals and values, and keep moving forward because you're worth it, right? All of these things build once you have a start. So creating that start, creating that energy, that's the hard part. That's why we kind of find these points of fear. We find these points of resistance. Because the universe likes the path of least resistance. It's conservation of energy, guys. This is basic conservation of energy. It's your body wants to be as efficient as possible. Your mind wants to be as efficient as possible. And it cuts out, it shortcuts, it delays in order to facilitate that. So if you want to move in the direction that you want to move in for your future and to getting everything you want, it helps to get your mind, body, everything on board, moving in the right direction so that you can notice when the fear pops up, so you can notice when some of those false visions pop up, so you can notice when resistance happens, and you can determine, is this resistance that is going to pull me back in the opposite direction, that pendulum of the universe? We see so many of those types of energy that just pull back and forth. Is it going to end in stagnation? We don't know. We can't read the future, right? But we know that when we have a big vision that is exciting, that draws us, creates this creative tension from the future right back to the past, wherever you are, because you have a purpose that's driving you. You have an idea that's big, that excites you, that means building certain things to get there. And that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. Because that is using the energy of the universe flowing with you in a positive direction to help you build the thing you want to build. It is moving with the flow, and that was the end of my recording. Okay. Just one last bit here. Thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate you all. If you are watching this for the first time, you're watching one of the replays, like, share, comment. If you are interested in the work that I'm doing, it's called Manifest Design. Check me out on www.thinktankcreative.net, and I will check you all guys next time. Take care. Bye.